I love how it looks like I'm reading a German newspaper in my little avatar. I also have glowing blue eyes, so I am addicted to spice apparently from the avatar. But thank you for Squid Pro Quo for showing me Bing. I now have access to, I think, an AI art generator that Megan Fox can use. And she has about my level of tech skills. So, oh my goodness, I think that I could be able to do this. So, I may be bombarding you all this weekend with, does this look right? Does this look okay? And trying to set up some merch. I know that Jung wants the, Thor pirate cat on a tote. So, Thor is back to being the only pet co-host around, and he is very sad about Fry, but he's he's happy to be the king again because those 2 were attention hounds. Good morning, Wolfram. I hope you are having a wonderful Friday. And Cynthia, good morning, reindeer. Tracy and Tammy, thank you so much for switching over. Fisher of Men. So, our first story is the Slender Man stabber. And unfortunately for her, she is not going to be getting early release or released at all. Now, this case was fairly controversial or has become controversial because Morgan Geyser, and I'm sure they'll go into it in the article, the young girl that, fully believed in Slender Man and wanted to go live with him. And in her head canon, you had to unalive someone in order to be able to go live with Slender Man. So she attacked one of her, trio of friends along with, assistance from the other friend. But that girl miraculously survived, and I'm biffing on her name right now. But she was found to have profound childhood schizophrenia. So while they kind of couched this case as, 2 crazy girls just, got fully in depth into this thing, what psychiatrists have argued now is that it was a folie à deux French in Madness of Two, and if you have the person who's starting out this sort of entirely fake world or delusion that has childhood schizophrenia, it can go very dark places. So there has been a kind of big push to get Morgan Geyser out of prison. Now, this is not happening, so let's look at the article. But I did kind of want to give you that backstory because public sentiment has changed with her diagnosis of childhood schizophrenia. It doesn't take away what she did. You still have to, take responsibility, but there were some mitigating factors that I don't think were known at the time of the trial. Morgan Geyser, 21, the infamous Slender Man stabber, has been found to be simply far too dangerous to be released from a mental hospital. Quote, "We come back to risk," end quote. Waukesha County Circuit Court Judge Michael O'Borhan said when explaining his decision, this isn't just an aspect where someone drove a car into another car and drove off and let them sit there. This is a personal, if you will, brutal attack on another person. This is hands-on, if you will. This is bloody, this is gory. But that kind of risk, that kind of dangerous conduct is what the risk is. Do we know if someone will repeat it? We don't know. Oh. Squid pro quo. This happened, when this happened, one of my friends was a teacher of the girl that got stabbed. Eh, I hope that the girl, now woman, who got stabbed is going on to live her best life and dealt with the trauma right when it happened. Note to everyone, I am not a life guru, but apparently just ignoring trauma is bad. It will bite you in the behind because eventually you're gonna not be able to run. So, simple life idea, try to deal with trauma when it happens. But I hope that she is living her best life. I hope she is going on to, fight for her dreams and wears her scars, if not proudly, at least as a testament to her will to survive and not as a constant reminder of the attack. Those are my hopes for her. The court heard hours of testimony for and against Geyser's potential release over the course of a 2-day hearing. In 2018, Geyser received a sentence of 40 years to life in a mental hospital in 2018. With the periodic possibility of early release from the Winnebago Mental Health Institute, where she has called home since shortly after the 2014 attempt on her friend Peyton Leutner's life. One of the two girls implicated in the stabbings and deemed the more culpable of the two, Geyser stabbed Leutner times by Geyser. For the love of all that is holy, law and crime is called a copy editor. I am a grammar outlaw, but I do have to read these things. And then I look like I can't read English, but y'all just can't write English. So we are a pair. So basically, when they broke down the case, they found Geyser to be sort of the antagonist, the catalyst for all of this happening. Yeah, I I am not sure what's going on. You guys need to. While I love you all, and I don't really care about subs because I just love doing this, but do take a time today to check that you are, still subscribed to all the channels you like, because periodically YouTube, I guess, will just have a giant blonde moment or possibly tyrannical blondness. But sometimes they will just unsub you for no reason. So, the creators you love you guys. Just make sure that you are still subscribed because I don't want you missing out on their stuff. And holy cow, it's so weird. But I love seeing all of you here. Good morning, Captain Kern and Zach and Deborah and JD Fan. Good morning. Welcome, Shizzy Raid. We are talking about the Slender Man case and the fact that, oh gosh, I just forgot her name. Morgan Geyser will be staying in the Winnebago prison, or not prison, mental facility. Well, you can say both. She's not free to leave, so. Let's see. So basically, what the police decided was that Morgan Geyser, the child with child onset schizophrenia, was in charge of sort of the catalyst of this. The two girls claim to have planned and carried out the attack in order to satisfy the whims of the Slender Man character, a native internet phenomenon popularized by the web series Marble Hornets. On Thursday, Boren, who had been assigned the case because since its inception, said there were still issues with Geyser's credibility. She's changed her position, the judge said, citing the credibility issue was, quote, paramount, end quote, to the case despite her progress. Multiple psychologists testified during the hearing. One of them, Deborah Collins, argued against Geyser's release. She said the young woman had tried to self-delete in 2001 and stopped taking her medication in 2022. And that is the real problem with schizophrenia. I am not a doctorologist. I am not a mental healthologist, but I have seen it in my own life. But you will get people, they will be on their medication and then uh, sometimes they just decide to go off it, either they just don't wanna take a pill, they don't like it, or, there are side effects to a lot of these mental health drugs that are not so great. So they just wanna stop taking that, and unfortunately, it can increase, a chance of manic attack. So, I will say that I would be leery of her coming out of the mental health facility if she doesn't have the tools and the support. I think, honest to goodness, I think that Rose or Gypsy Rose Blanchard should have been taken to a halfway house and given a lot more life skills. The fact that they just kind of, chucked her out and she got married and she didn't ever realize she didn't have life skills. It's just you're setting people up for failure. The psychologist also cited some recent statements from Geyser in which she appeared to lack remorse about the attempted murder and said she feigned her mental illness. Several doctors also testified on Geyser's behalf, including the professional in charge of the Winnebago Mental Health Institute. Quote, I do think at this point it is critical to make the transition into the community to help her with ongoing development, Kayla Pope, the facility's director, testified. How about we do this? You know how when you have to, well, if you watch a lot of body cam photo videos like I do, because nothing makes me happier than realizing while I'm a hot mess, I am not a soft sit hot mess. So, you know, anything that makes me feel better. But, if we linked people getting released to parole early release, we linked the liability back to the board that either made the vote or the person and people who stated these people are good to go. I think you'd see a lot more careful discernment in who gets let out and who has to stay in the clink. But I don't know how that would work, and I'm not a lawyer. So, I'm sure there's probably some constitutional something or other against it. Let's see. Additionally, the pro-release contingent said there were no issues of violence and added the caveat that Geyser had been on and off her antipsychotic medications over the past 2 years. Prosecutors argued against the release, citing the victim's family's strong opposition. In the end, the court agreed with the state. Quote, the statute says the court shall grant the petition unless it finds by clear and convincing evidence that the person would pose a significant risk of bodily harm to herself or to others or serious property damage if conditionally released, the judge intoned. This court is satisfied by the evidence that is clear and convincing that Miss Geyser does pose a significant risk of body harm to herself or others. Both Geyser and her co-defendant were found not guilty by mental disease or defect, but the affirmative defense carried a mandatory and enforced mental health confinement. In 2021, Weir received early release under strict supervision conditions. All three of the girls involved at the time were 12. So I do wonder on the progress that the girl that was released out on very strict supervision is making. Like I said, Morgan Geyser's kind of in her own spot because she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Now, what the other girl was diagnosed with was folie à deux, or falling into a delusion of two. If you've seen Beautiful Creatures, I believe it's a Del Toro film. It's about two New Zealand girls who unalive their mother, and it's kind of goes along that same line. It is when you believe in a delusion so completely that you are able to then bring other people into your delusion. At least that's what I gather. Again, not a doctorologist, so don't take it to the bank. Anyone got $10? A historic Montana hospital hits the market for just $10, but potential buyers face this huge obstacle. Y'all, I am just trying to make my commune of introverts. I'm trying to unite to make a diverse community of people who can't people. And they're gonna put a catch on my hospital that I wanna buy? A historic and sprawling Spanish mission style building that functioned as a working hospital in Montana until the 1940s is on the market for just $10. But if that seems to be too good to be true, it is. Well, dang. Why is there always a catch when things are on sale? The old hospital building, featuring 3 floors and over 16,000 square feet, may be for sale, but the land it sits on is not. So you have to pick it up and move it, I guess. The buyer would need to move the medical facility off the property and locate it somewhere else, according to the real estate listing. Well, I mean, how much is land in Montana? We could get a couple acres and make our, antisocial commune. It'll be called Moe's Place, and it will be awesome. I'm the only, future cult leader that doesn't wanna sleep with your wife. I'd be the best cult leader. Let's see. To sweeten the unusual deal, the seller is offering up to $100,000 in moving credit to help defer the relocation and transit cost. That's only a drop in the bucket of the estimated price tag that would come with relocating and restoring the 113-year-old building of that size. Restoration costs alone have been priced at about $8 million. Well, I guess we're gonna need to shake our couches out, because that's a lot of I'm a hundredaire, you know? How about I give you 350? 350, 350. The old post hospital was built on Fort Missoula in 1911 and served as a hospital until it was decommissioned in 1947. Doctors and nurses treated patients suffering from the 1918 Spanish flu. If you wanna know an interesting little factoid about the Spanish flu, so the reason it's called the Spanish flu is because Spain was kind of not doing anything in the war. It was like, "I am Switzerland, y'all. I don't care, but we have a bit of, a pandemic, a panorama, if you will." And it was the only country that was not lying about the fact that there was a fairly severe flu going around that seemed to be targeting young children. So, unfortunately, the illness got, labeled the Spanish flu because they were the only ones that weren't in the trenches, and therefore reported honestly on numbers and things. No good deed goes unpunished. Good morning, Slinky. I love your little Slinky things. I wish my boys would play with things nicely. We got them all Slinkies one year, and it was not 5 minutes before one was kinked up beyond all imagination, and the other one was stepped on, so Slinkies are not safe in our house. Uh, let's see. Children afflicted with polio during the pandemic and Japanese and German and Italian migrants worked during World War II when it served as the main hospital for the alien detention camp. After it was decommissioned, the building was converted into medical offices that were opened until 2015. The current owner of the hospital has proposed a development plan and claimed it would fund its restoration, but the plan was shot down by the Missoula Historic Per- Preservation Commission, the local publication reported. The developer, FAE Wolf, filed permits to build 16 townhouses on private property adjacent to the hospital building and planned to use the revenue generated from the homes to fund its restoration. But the commission denied the permits over the proposed development sightlines, options on open space, and belief that the townhouses would reduce the prominence of the historic building, the Current reported. FAE Wolf appealed the decision to the Missoula City Council, claiming it was rooted in bias, but the council denied his appeal on a 7-4 vote, according to the outlet. Now, unless an interested buyer comes forward, the property owner says they will file new permits, this time for the hospital's demolition. Sir, it's a bold move, Cotton, but I don't think they're gonna go for demolition. But, I mean, I would sign it with a big FU, like, signature. I love those at the end of a really sassy brief when the lawyer, like, gets his big red pen and he just does the FU signature, and or deliver it in an origami middle finger. I'm just saying it's probably not gonna go through, sir, but I appreciate you trying. For some reason, a two-story houseboat is floating through San Francisco Bay piloted by no one. Now, this is the start of every outbreak movie of zombies I've ever heard about. So I say we don't go in there because, I have seen all the zombie movies. This is not good. The mystery of a two-story home seen floating in the San Francisco Bay for several days has been solved. The wood shingled home was first spotted in the water on Sunday and seen in various locations around the bay in the ensuing days. The U.S. Coast Guard said it's monitoring the private transfer of the house, which was built upon a floating barge. I don't know if you would get motion sickness in the house. I would love to live in a houseboat, but as y'all know, I apparently cannot float to save my life. Apparently, I tense up and or I just don't have you would think with the fluffiness that I have, I could float, but no, I sink. Some people are just sinkers. The floating house sparked a flurry of speculation when it was first seen in the water, with many pointing out similarities to the Pixar film Up, just on the water instead of air. Oh gosh, Up, the movie you should not see when you're in your 3rd trimester with your 6th feral child. Okay, y'all, I have to tell you the story because I am on full squirrel mode today, and it's Friday. But there is nothing better than when you are hugely pregnant in the summer to just go to a movie. Even if you don't really care what you're seeing, you're just sitting down eating popcorn and not being bothered in a dark room. You might take a nap, who knows? But I was greatly pregnant with the youngest, most feral, and I just went in to see Up. And if you have seen Up, then the first, like, 5 minutes, you just wanna cry hysterically. So, I am coming out of the movie theater, and this poor young I'm guessing his age is approximately, you know, 16, and he kind of had this voice like the Simpsons nerd, like, "Oh my gosh." And he's like, "Are you okay? Are you in labor? Do I need to call 911?" And it was like, "They were in love and she died." And he was like, "I think I might have been the best birth control ever because I am not a cute crier. I am hugely pregnant." I was done, and so I think I scarred this poor guy's life. So if you're watching, I am very sorry, but my hormones were all over the place, and Up was it was entrapment. If you don't cry at the beginning part of Up, I don't know what to tell you. I need to check you for a soul. Or at least tear up or go, "Oh." It's been revealed that the house was the second to last houseboat to leave Redwood City Marina. The marina was formerly home to more than 100 people living on the water, but the city started evicting the houseboats in 2015 after lawsuits from nearby residents. The house arrived Tuesday to its new home at the Commodore Marino in Sausalito. Phil Hott of Sausalito said the house's journey took several hours longer than expected. It was a twisty channel, so you have to get the tide right, and you have to come down without the wind blowing you into the bank. These are very heavy things. Uh, then it has to travel through the bay, and the winds and tide change, and the current is going out. You don't want it to drag you out of the Golden Gate Bridge. I do wonder why the state was kicking them out. Were y'all having house parties on the water? If the house is rocking, don't bother knocking kinda thing? I'm just asking for a friend. I would like to know. Project to save Florida's, quote, "beer can island." Offers partial ownership for $1,000. Okay, guys, we can't afford the hospital. I think we've all checked our couch cushions and about, 18 million is gonna be too much for us. Maybe we should just buy Beer Can Island. A small Florida key known as Beer Can Island due to the results of parties thrown in the sand is for sale, and one prospective buyer is looking for partners to go in at $1,000 apiece. The 9-acre island, also known as Pine Key, is located near MacDill Air Force Base in Apollo Beach and was created in the 1940s as a result of dredging, the process of relocating sand and other materials from construction sites. The island, which was planted with Australian pine trees to help prevent erosion, earned the nickname Beer Can Island due to being littered with empty beverage receptacles from decades of parties. I'm just saying, we could probably afford, we are hundredaires. If we pull together, we could be thousandaires and we could own a part of Beer Can Island. Russell Loomis and his 3 friends purchased the island in 2017 and cleared what he described to WKMG-TV as 300 or 400 bags worth of trash from the property. The owners installed attractions including a giant slide, portable bathrooms, and a tiki bar to attract visitors. Lumens Loomis said the island project was successful for a time, but the owners decided to close the island earlier this year due to the long work hours required to maintain the island and the cost from repairing damages done by Hurricane Adalia. Quote, "If I had an extra 1 or 10 million to dump into it, I would beautify the place even more. I just don't have the resources for it." So that's one thing, he said. And then secondly, I live an hour and a half away, and getting over there is a chore. It's even worse coming home at the end of the night. I'll head out there at 6 a.m. and I don't usually get out of there until 9 o'clock at night. The island was listed for more than 14 million, but one prospective buyer, Nick Leperidov, announced, quote, "Save Beer Can Island project would allow other members of the public to buy a stake in the land for just $1,000 each." Sir, this sounds like a con job. Are you trying to sell me Cutco knives and or a Kirby vacuum? Gonna need to see a picture of this man. If he's got the prison tats, that's a no-go. Uh, Nick said the money pledged by participants is being held in an escrow account and will be returned if his group fails to buy the land. He said any money left over after buying the island would be spent on taxes, legal fees, and the cost of a website, other maintenance costs related to the island. Okay, but what do we get for our $1,000? I don't think too many people are going to go out and purchase an island, so there's an opportunity for all of us to own an island together, which is a pretty neat opportunity. Yes, again, but what in writing? I need this in writing and I need to talk to my lawyer friends because it feels like I'm just giving you $1,000 to help you buy an island, and then I get to vote on what the island will be. I'm parking my houseboat, which I'm buying now because I want a houseboat. Knowing my luck, I will save for retirement to get a houseboat and then realize I get seasick. I love it when I look at chat and I have no idea what we are talking about, but decks are a waste of money. So, one of the only arguments Mr. Moe and I have ever had came when he wanted to build a deck. And I was like, "Cool, these are all the features I want on my deck." And then the lady comes out from, Home Depot and she does the measurements and she's like, "Yeah, it'll be $40,000 for me to give you a rectangle." And maybe it's my chronically old age, my grumpy old manness, but I was like, for 40K, it better, like, I don't know, have lights and a fountain and freaking tell me a nighttime story. But no, it didn't even have railings. It was simply going to be a square. And I was like, that is a heck no to me. I am not paying 40K for a square. I can make a square myself. I thought y'all were coming in to give me, like, benches and lighting and a water feature. Damn you, Home home network. I don't need this." So I was very upset, and Mr. Mo was upset because he's like, "I really just want a deck." And I'm like, "Yeah, but we're not paying 40K for a rectangle. I can do a rectangle. That's ridiculous." Yeah, so that's probably one of the only, big purchase fights we've ever had because I'm pretty sure that, I'm still living in the 1930s where I'm like, "That's 40K, you can buy a car for that, please tell me." I was like, "It should be talking to me like Kit, the talking, detective car." I was like, "For the love of all that is holy." So we moral of the story is we didn't end up getting the deck, and I'm sure by now it would be an 80,000 rectangle, so who knows? But there you go, if you would like to spend $1,000 to, I guess, get a vote, I would say have a lawyer look over this contract because I don't know what this man thinks here. Look, I wanna get a lot for my $1,000, so, like, first right to build my own little, well, just cabana cabin by my own self. I don't know if I'd have biometric locks, but I probably would in a moat with alligators and lasers. McDonald's $25 deal, inverted commas, goes viral, sparks a debate over California's minimum wage increase. Hashtag your new normal. A viral social media video about McDonald's $25 deal recently sparked debate online about California's minimum wage increase. A TikTok user who posts videos under the username at Shannon, I'm not going to dox her on thing, shared a video on March 27th. She was at the drive-through of a Southern California McDonald's location when she saw a sign for a 40-piece chicken McNugget meal, which also included 2 large fries. The price of the meal bundle was $25.39, including tax. It would roughly come to about $27. In the video, the social media user lamented that the meal didn't even include a drink. So it's $25 for 40 nuggets and 2 large fries. You couldn't even throw in a Sprite? You couldn't even throw in, like, a medium Sprite in there? Holy cow. While the meal is designed to serve 4 people, it demonstrates how prices at fast food chains have risen over the year. I will be very honest with you guys, it's not as much here, but if Mr. Mo and I are gonna stop at McDonald's, we will get the 40-piece, McNugget meal, and generally, I have them have water bottles with them so they can, have a different drink, or we'll get a one big drink for, all 3 boys, which is a terrible idea, don't do it, just spend more money on 3 damn drinks so you don't have to listen to, "He's not giving me the drink. He's been holding it forever. He's a backwasher." Just buy the 3 damn drinks and save your sanity. Just a mama tip. Fight the battles you can win and give up on the battles that are just gonna make you get a migraine. For a lot of it, what I tell the kids is I will look, I am hashtag El Cheapo, but I will carry one of those Mio squirzers, and we'll all just order water, and if the kids want to, they can put some of the Mio in, and, then they have a drink. A recent study by Finance Buzz found that McDonald's prices have increased 100% since 2014. 10 years ago, the average price of a 10-piece McNugget meal was $5.99. Now the meal usually goes for $10.99. Yeah, I'm not every once in a while, I will get a craving for chicken nuggets, and usually what I'll do is buy the 10-piece. And, you know, most of it will go to the kids. I'll get, like, 2 chicken nuggets, and that'll hold me over for, like, the rest of the year. The video ended up amassing 2 million views, bringing thousands of TikTok users onto its comment section, many of whom were nostalgic about past McDonald's prices. "Remember when chicken nugget or 40-piece chicken nuggets was $5 and a large drink was $1? Pepperidge Farm remembers, and Bartle and James makes you forget. Y'all, we need to bring back Bartle and James, the little wine coolers, because if that doesn't make you think of your mom on a Saturday night unwinding watching Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, I don't know where you were in the early '90s. Manager's special used to be 40 nuggets, a gallon of tea, and a large fry for like $20. Shake my head, another said. I spent $48 there yesterday. My jaw on the floor, a third commenter wrote. Inevitably, some of the social media users pointed out that the recent legislation in California had increased the minimum wage for fast food workers from $16 to $20 minimum wage. Welcome to your new normal, one person said. Welcome to California, another chimed in. Other users shared their local McDonald's prices, and very few came as close to being as high as California. 50 nuggets here is $15, one Florida resident said. It's 6.19 in Dallas for a 20-piece and two large fries, a Texan wrote. Some viewers thought that the video was an overreaction and were unfazed by the price of the meal. 12.50 per person isn't that crazy, a user wrote. You're getting a good deal and you're complaining. Okay, those people are voted off the island. That's just how that happens. While the wage increase went into effect on April 1st, 4 days after the TikTok video was posted, the fast food businesses in the Golden State have been bracing for the wage increase for months. Mod Pizza recently closed at least 5 California locations before the minimum wage increase kicked in on April 1st. Several California food establishments, including and particularly pizza chains, have been laying off employees in the recent months. The Wall Street Journal reported last month, including Pizza Hut and Round Table Pizza. A former Mod Pizza employee in Clovis told Fox 26 Fresno that it, quote, just kind of seemed like the right timing 2 weeks before all the fast food chain locations in California got that increased, we got closed, end quote. Now, here's another shady thing about this $20 increase. So the CEO or, chief operating officer of Panera Bread, well, he's good friends with, American Psycho, Gavin Newsom. So somehow Panera Bread is not considered fast food. It is a bakery. So they don't have to pay their employees $20 an hour. See how that works? Donate to the governor. You're suddenly exempted from, having to increase your employees' wages. And I go back to these jobs are not supposed to be jobs in which you support a family. And I hate that some people are there in their life and they do have to choose that. But these are supposed to be jobs that give teenagers those skills they need to understand that life doesn't revolve around them. A prosecutor explains unusual charge against former Virginia Virginia school administrator after a 6-year-old pointed a force multiplier and pulled the trigger on a teacher. I pulled this because I don't understand how she's getting charged with anything, so I figured I wanted to read the article. Since we do cover legally lawful law stuff. A Virginia prosecutor said Thursday that he will pursue the case against former assistant principal indicted on felony child neglect charge at the elementary school where a 6-year-old shot a teacher last year, and suggested others could be charged as well if as the investigation continues. A day after a special grand jury report outlining the case against ex-administrator Ebony Parker was made public, Newport News Commonwealth's attorney Howard Gwynn told reporters that he was, quote, troubled, end quote, by the findings and believes the charge is warranted. He added that he had never brought a charge against a school administrator or heard of it being done as it relates to this type of case, but, quote, "We will go wherever the facts lead us," end quote. I never thought about this being precedential. So precedent, setting a precedent or setting a sort of, "Oh, this is normal now. This can happen." So when they're the first one to do that, if it goes to appeal, I believe that's when it becomes a precedent. But again, I am not a lawyer. Kurt does very good explaining what words mean. So if you wanna get more in the nitty-gritty of what words actually mean instead of a Mo overview, I would suggest uncivil law because he's very smart and he will explain it. Never okay, Gwen said, "I simply think about do this is us doing our jobs, and so whether it has any precedent or not, it's really not relevant to what we do, and it has no bearing into any decision we make." The shooting at Richneck Elementary School in Newport News on January 6, 2023 brought national attention to school safety and stunned the community when police announced that the child's actions appeared to be intentional. Legal experts say it remains rare for charges to be brought against parents, administrators, or other adults. Hmm. Do you want to tell that to the Crumblies? Is this mom going to get arrested too? I mean, I if you wanna set up a screwed up precedent, then you need to treat every parent the same, and this parent allowed a six-year-old to get a force multiplier and intentionally try to, yeet his teacher off this mortal coil. So, maybe the parent is a little bit liable here since it was, I think a kindergartner, but I could be mixing this up. Legal ex okay. But some say the recent involuntary manslaughter trials of Michigan parents of a teenage school unaliver who killed four classmates, the first parents in the U.S. to be held criminally responsible for a mass unaliving committed by their child, could set a legal precedent leading to similar prosecutions. Gwynn said there is a message to be sent when charges are brought in the fallout of school unalivings, and that, quote, "the safety of the children and staff and administrators should be taken seriously," end quote. Everything you do and say sends a message. And what is the message that you want to send by your conduct? Gwynn said of school officials, adding it should be, "We've got to do everything we can to protect you. We know this is a dangerous situation, so we've got to do everything we can to protect you because that's what we signed up for." In Newport News, the six-year-old student who has not been named used a 9 millimeter force multiplier to shoot his teacher, Abigail Zwerner, while she sat at the reading table in their first grade classroom. She was seriously injured but survived and managed to escort her class of 15 students to safety, the police said. What a hero. I mean, I'm sure she was in shock. She was gravely injured, but she took it upon herself to try to save the other students. So thank you, ma'am. That was very brave, and I'm sure so difficult and so traumatizing. On the day of the incident, Parker, assistant principal at the time, was made aware by other staff and students on four occasions that that child might be, quote, "a potentially dangerous threat," according to the grand jury's report. Dr. Parker's lack of response and initiative, given the seriousness of the information she had received on January 6th, 2023, is shocking. So she was just like that counselor who said, "Nah, he'll be fine." I'm finding parallels. Dr. Parker's lack of response, and it was that it made the situation unavoidable when it could have been taken care of. Parker, who resigned in the wake of the shooting, has been charged with 8 counts of felony child abuse, each one representing the number of bullets that the boy had in the force multiplier, Gwen said. She appeared in Newport News Circuit Court earlier Tuesday for a hearing with her lawyer, and another hearing was set for next month ahead of the trial. If found guilty, she faces up to 5 years in prison per count. It was unclear if she had already entered a plea, and her lawyer could not be immediately reached for comment following the hearing. The 11-member grand jury, which was impaneled in September, said it heard from 19 witnesses, reviewed several hundred documents of school records, and watched police body cam and other video to make its determination. Its report provided further details about how the events leading up to the mass incident and during it, among them, that after the boy shot Werner from less than 6 feet away, he tried to fire again but was thwarted. Quote, the child continued to stare at her, not changing his emotional facial expression as he tried to put another freedom seed downrange, the report said. The firearm had jammed due to his lack of strength on the first shot, inhibiting him from shooting Ms. Werner or anyone else again. The firearm had a full magazine with several additional, freedom seeds ready to fire if not for the firearm jamming. Best best case scenario. I mean, unfortunately, he did get one, and often he injured the teacher, which is terrifying, but the most awesome jam. Gwynn said Thursday he was disturbed by other details and allegations in the report, including that students were traumatized following the shooting and unable to transfer schools, and how a friend of the 6-year-old boy tried to warn adults at the school about the force multiplier and, quote, feels guilty today that no one listened to them. He added an investigation is ongoing into missing documents regarding the student's behavioral file. The grand jury's report notes that the boy's disciplinary issues, including in the days before the shooting, he was defiant during recess, constantly spoke back to Zwerner, slammed her phone on the ground at reading time, caused the screen to crack, and used an expletive or expletive, if you're in Britain, toward her. He was suspended for 1 day after that incident. That's my question. Why is the mom not here? Because all of those behaviors are deeply troubling for a child in 1st grade. Look, I have had 3 boys that have ADHD. I have gotten calls of my youngest, most feral, pretending to be a puppy and growling at people under the desk. So I kind of understand what it is like to raise, boy children. But these are very aggressive and very troubling behaviors for a child this young. So what kind of environment is he living in? So I hope the mom basically what I'm saying is I hope the mom is held accountable. And how did he get a force multiplier? If that mom has not been tried, I'll have to look up this case because there's so many cases I can't keep up with everyone. The mom may have been charged, I just don't know. So I will get on that and see if I can find some files and maybe bring that up. There will be no legal shenanigans theater this weekend. I will probably be doing a Groves trial stream, and I'm just gonna warn you guys, I will be skipping to the part where the prosecutor loses her mind on, the dumpster fire incubator that was the so-called mother of baby Dylan, but it's still a kid case. So I completely understand if you don't wanna watch that. Put your mental health first. It is a tough case, but when you see the female prosecutor lose her ever-loving S on this woman, it is cathartic in a way because most of the time lawyers are very poker faced, and you could tell that she was halfway from taking off her earrings, and it was gonna be fighting time, okay? S Prosecutors are okay, recent criminal cases against James and Jennifer Crumbley, the parents of school shooter, not gonna name him, in Oxford, Michigan, and now Parker, a school official in Newport News, remain rare, but indicate a new willingness among prosecutors to hold others accountable when a child commits a crime with a force multiplier, said Mark Chutko, a lawyer who previously led the criminal division of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Detroit. Prosecutors are becoming more creative and more aggressive in holding adults and people in positions of trust responsible for the crimes of children. In Newport News, quote, as it compares to the Michigan case, the prosecutors expanded their options, end quote. School administrators were not charged in connection with the mass unaliving at Oxford High School uh, in 2021, although there's been an outcry to hold school officials there accountable. But in Rich Neck, in the shooting, the mother of the 6-year-old boy had pled guilty to a felony charge of child neglect last year. Okay, so she was punished. Um, I will check with Sal and everyone. We try to kind of have a complete lineup on Saturday so that you can kind of go from one to the other. So I will check with timing and I will let you guys know through a community post, an X, a Twitter thingy-mabob, an X-a-bob, and on the Discord thing, if I remember. To be very fair, I always forget about Discord. I need to get my own Discord set up, like, with my own stuff, but y'all, I'm about a hot mess. So I am glad that they went after the mother because how in the world that child got a force multiplier, uh, is beyond neglectful. If you are going to have something as dangerous as potentially, life-stopping as a firearm in your house, that is a serious commitment, and you need to keep that safe. That's my thoughts on it, but who knows? Chuck Toast said for prosecutors to also accuse an administrator at Rich Neck of felony child neglect shows the duty of care that is placed upon school staff, particularly when a force multiplier is involved. He said the charge parallels what prosecutors in Michigan had to prove for involuntary manslaughter against the Crumbley's parents. It can't just be ordinary negligence, it's got to be really gross negligence. I think that's the only negligence the state can do, gross negligence. Taking it one step further really criminalizes it. NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos said the crux of these cases suggest investigators in school unalivings are looking for who missed the obvious warning signs and if that could have prevented someone from being harmed. To me, it's no coincidence that this indictment is coming out around the same time as the conviction of the Crumbly parents for their child's behavior. There appears to be a seal that is broken and now the waters are flowing. Yes, you found the guy. You found the guy, but then you wanted more. And as a parent, if my child was lost in one of these incidents, I can get that with all of my feelings, that you want everyone who had any part of this child doing what he did to be punished. But that's not how our law works, but we seem to be going more with feelings lately than what the law is. And now that that seal is broken, now that you've punished parents, administrators look out. You guys are just as culpable sometimes, if not more, because you've had specific training as to how, these things escalate, de-escalate. So, you know, you guys wanted this. You guys called for this, blood debt to have to happen. Now you guys are gonna give it you're gonna get, in trouble with your own arrogance and lack of noticing signs. Let's see here. The school board of Newport News Schools said in a statement Thursday that the district has since um, implic- implemented several changes following the shooting and, quote, will continue to do so in the future. The district has installed metal detectors at all of its schools and brought in new leadership. The safety of students and staff remains a top priority for the school board. Really? Are you sure? Because I've looked at stats and a bunch of people are graduating not knowing how to read. So possibly teaching them to read would be great. In the aftermath of the shooting, Gwynn told NBC News that he did not seek charges against the 6-year-old boy, citing his age and inability to adequately understand the legal system. But he said he's still weighing whether or not he may hold any adults criminally responsible. The child's family said that he has a quote, acute disability, end quote, and that he is receiving the treatment he needs under court ordered temporary detention at a mental facility. This is probably the best thing that could happen for that little boy because it sounds like he has a lot of issues that he just needs people that know more, that have more, training and understand exactly what is behind his defiance and his kind of oppositional sort of behavior and can kindly but firmly put that, into a much more functional child because all of these things seem to me to be cries for help. I mean, what was his what was his home life like that he thought it was okay to scream profanity and bring a force multiplier to school at 6 years old? I I I I shudder to think about his family life. 3 months after the shooting, Zwerner also filed a $40 million lawsuit against the school district, alleging that administrators, including Parker, failed to heed warnings. The grand jury findings are similar to her complaint. Well, this is going to help her lawsuit. Zwerner resigned after filing her suit. During a news conference Thursday, lawyers for Zwerner, 26, said she has, quote, been cooperating in every way we can, end quote, with the criminal investigation and welcomed the grand jury's decision to bring a charge against the school administrator who failed to act. They said they were bothered by how the grand jury noted that Parker, quote, did not look away from her computer screen when Zwerner tried to tell her she was concerned about the boy's aggression before the shooting happened that day. Others had tried to warn Parker the boy was believed to have been armed, but they say she didn't intervene according to the report. When somebody comes into your office and says that there is a force multiplier on campus, looking away from a computer screen should be a given. Lawyer Kevin Benazin said, taking immediate action, whatever it may be, should be a given. Diane Toscano, another lawyer for Zwerner, said she learned some new details in the grand jury report, including how Parker, quote, allegedly shut the door to her office after the shooting, despite learning that what happened and the 6-year-old boy had attempted to, you know, send more freedom seeds down range, but it was jammed. That was hard to reach, he said. I know he tried to shoot a second time. So he sounds like a very angry child, and anger is usually like, not to get all therapist-y, but anger is generally a masking, um, emotion. You are either scared, sad, or hurt. So, if you're a young kid and you can't express those with words, you can look angry. Hell, if you're an adult, it's easier to pick a fight than talk about feelings. In a very sweet story that will be our last, a Connecticut police officer forms a strong bond with a baby girl he saved 5 years ago. We're family. The strong bond between a Connecticut police officer and a baby whose life he saved 5 years ago continues to shine a light on the power of human connection over all else, including people's individual backgrounds or races, he said. We're all made of the same stuff. Everybody's life changed for the better that night, especially mine, Detective Michael Harton of North Haven, Connecticut Police Department told Fox News Digital. We're all human. We get so involved in the drama of the world. It's nice to be able to take care of each other, no matter where we come from or what our situation may be. Harton, a police officer for 27 years, was on duty at a movie theater on March 4th, 2019, when he suddenly saw a woman come running out of a movie with a baby in her arms. She was frantic, Harton said. You could tell as soon as I grabbed her that she was in distress. The woman was named Nikki Huckabee. Huckabee. I'm just gonna say Huckabee. I apologize if I mispronounced that. The baby was her 3-month-old daughter, Imian, who goes by the nickname Tuka. The family was on their first outing since baby Tuka was born prematurely in December, and she'd never been left alone without me, Huckabee said. So we brought her to the movie, and I just fed her, burped her, and she was doing fine. But when we put her in her chair, strapped her in, we noticed she was not breathing. Huckabee said she picked our baby up, patted her on the back, but nothing was working. Although I knew CPR, she said, in that moment, everything in my mind went blank. I remember thinking, I have to get outside this theater. I know there's an officer out there. Huckabee found Harton in the lobby area and told him my baby's not breathing. The only thing do I could do was call in the name of Lord God Jesus, Huckabee said. There was nothing else I knew to do in that moment. And goodness, when your teeny tiny one, especially when they were born premature, your heart just stops. Your heart just stops when, they maybe have an oxygen deceleration in the NICU or something like that. It is so tenuous with preemies. It really is. But Harton, also a trained EMT, jumped into action, performing a variation of the Heimlich maneuver for infants. I started with back blows, and that's when she curled her back up and completely went limp on me, Harton said. Then I started doing back blows, chest compressions, back blows, chest compressions. Everything went in slow motion, Harton said. He had never performed the Heimlich on a baby. Talk about a roller coaster ride of emotion, he said. I just kept saying to myself, not on my watch, not on my watch. She was just a peanut. Mom said she was less than 15 pounds, and I think she was more like 10 pounds. Huckabee remembers being panicked, screaming and praying as Harton tried to save her little girl. Then suddenly there was a cry, and everything was going to be okay. The mom hugged me and thanked me, Harton said. She kept thanking God out loud and was, and still is, super appreciative. Later, a fellow officer told Harton that once the baby started crying, he did not let go of her right away. Oh, even to her mom, he was like, I'm glad you're back, Peanut. You scared me to death. And she was such an adorable baby. See, this is how they get you, though. You see this and you get all the baby fever and you smell the newborn smell and you're like, "Oh, fresh from the dealership." And then you forget about poop explosions and midnight feedings and everything else. You know, it's kind of amazing that our brains do that because they want us to live long and prosper and, send our genes down for the rest of humanity. So I love that sort of amnesia we get. And JKD Buck, I did the Heimlich on my own child when he was 6. I couldn't imagine doing it on an infant. Yeah, I would have no idea. I would have absolutely none. I do know how to do infant CPR. It's been a long time, but I do know and remember the general premises. And I'm sure with a refresher course, I could remember a lot more. But I would have no idea for the Heimlich. But Harton also, where did I go with this? Oh, I just kept holding her until the medics arrived, Harton said. When I put her on a stretcher, that's embedded in my mind like a snapshot. I don't know if it was the father in me or the officer in me. I was so scared she was going to stop breathing. I just couldn't let go. Dramatic body cam footage reportedly captured the incident from beginning to end, including Huckabee's tearful cries for help, Harton's calm, decisive action, and the emotional moment he loaded baby Tuka into the ambulance. Huckabee calls Tuka a living miracle as she survived being born a preemie and now this. For that reason, Harton gave her the nickname Little Angel, and he could not get her out of his mind. I checked with the mom from time to time, but I didn't want to be overbearing, Harton said. A year to the date, they surprised me with a visit to the police station, and that's where the family friendship began. Harton and his wife Suzanne began enjoying dinners, or Susan, sorry, not Suzanne. There was no Z there. began enjoying dinners with the mom and daughter. They were invited to celebrate her birthdays, holidays, and special occasions, such as Tuka's first day of kindergarten last fall. We just became part of each other's life, Harton said. Eventually, Harton became known as Uncle Mike to Tuka and her family. Uncle Mike is literally around for everything, Huckabee said. When she was in daycare, crud, I don't want that. No, stop. I don't need to know the weather in Indiana. I can look out the window and see it's raining. Thank you, though. Uncle Mike is literally around for everything, Huckabee said. When she was in daycare, he would say, "Oh, you have a good week this or good week this in daycare, Angel, so I can buy you a gift." And of course, Angel was horrible in daycare, but he still bought a gift. Grandparents are hard. Uh, you know, I can't wait to be a grandparent. I love parenthood, don't get me wrong. It is an adventure, and sometimes you feel like you're doing the best job, and then an hour later you're gonna feel like, "God, what are they gonna tell Oprah when she talks to them? Please don't make a tell-all book. I'm trying my best here." But to see your children grow up is such an amazing adventure and just the unfolding of the person they're gonna become. It's a tough job, but it's also really rewarding and sometimes heartbreaking and sometimes the best and worst at the same time. Huckabee even asked Harton to be Tuka's godfather, an honor he didn't hesitate to accept. "She's very bubbly," Harton said of his goddaughter. "She's super smart and reminds me a lot of my daughter. That's why we get along so well together." Harton has two grown children of his own, a daughter who is a NICU nurse and a son who's a police officer. Both are following in their father's footsteps as first responders. "It's been so rewarding for us to have all of them as a part of our lives," Huckabee said. "It's also a story because we come from two different walks of lives. We're from two different cultures, two different races." Until you said anything, I just thought it was people being people doing good things. I just see two families getting together, but I can understand why that would be important in today's state. And for us to come together, especially in today's world, with community and police, it just brings a whole new light to things, she said. Harton said he's seen a lot of, quote, bad stuff, end quote, throughout his career in law enforcement, but his encounter with Tuka and her mother put everything in perspective for him. He said, "In my job, I try to treat people the way I would want to be treated," Harton said. "We have to look out for each other. If we don't agree on certain things, that's fine, but let's all get along." Huckabee said that's exactly how Harton operates. "I've never felt judged," she said. "I'm a single mom, and Uncle Mike is her father figure. They treat us like family and are so supportive. Every accomplishment I've made in my career, they're excited for me. When I got a new house, they wanted to know what they could do for us. I'm able to provide and take care of Tuka myself, but it's good to know that she has that extra support," she added. "I can't really even begin to explain how wonderful it is to have that." Harton said he was the one who is thankful and hopes every police officer gets to have a little angel in their life. And he hopes our journey will have a positive impact between law enforcement and the community. We're a family. Nothing's going to take that away from us. And there's and that's something that makes Tuka proud, said her mom. When other kids make her mad, Huckabee said she tells them, my godfather's a cop. I love this child. I love this child. She's already like, don't mess with me. I have a cop for a godfather. What an angel. What a sweet baby. What a sweet story. I'm glad we got to end on this. We have so much more in common with each other than we have differences. And if we just let everyone have their own different opinion and don't assume they're coming from an immoral place, just a different line of thinking, oh my goodness, the world would be better. The world would be so much better. I said that too, but look at me. Look, I'm not saying that your kids are going to maybe travel the path that I did, but y- your life, your perspective changes a lot. And I love this story. I love this story. I'm glad he was able to help. I'm glad this mother and daughter are flourishing, and it's just amazing. And I hope you love this story. I am going to send you to Baker. I think he is doing a Karen Reed pretrial. I know the verdict in his case came down yesterday, so he might be talking about that too. I'm not quite sure. But I will be sending you to Broken Baker. I am gonna start trying to send you guys to different people just to kind of spice it up, and also it's something that Twitter pates me, and I'm trying to do this year is do things that Twitter pate me. I can wear funny wigs, I can be an absolute goofball on the internet, but trying to people throws me for a loop. Have a wonderful day. I will see you tomorrow. I will get the time that I'm going to be doing the Grove stream, and I will put that up as soon as I talk to Sal and everyone else and see where they would like to put their streams since I'm fairly flexible as long as I let Mr. Mo know I need to do a stream. So I will get you guys that information, put it up on the community thing and the Twitters. Have a wonderful day. I will see you guys soon. Bye, guys.